Good day, human Latiosites. This is Latiosazubral, and welcome back to Let's Play Pokemon Picross, where we use logic puzzles to draw Pokemon pictures. So, let's begin. Alright, last time we drew quite a few Fire-type Pokemon and a random Yamask, because I don't know. But this time, we have this thing to draw, which is going to be big, and set a water type, use Blue Force, so I guess Greninja will help us out there. I'm going to do this in 30 minutes. 30 minutes or less, or our puzzle is free. Let's do this. Alright. So I'm going to use Togekiss instead of Dragonite. Only because this way at least we're given a little bit more assurance that it's going to do more for us. Alright. And Greninja's gonna help us out here. Alright, we know that's a 4. That is a 4. And we know that the 2 has to include that. We also know that needs to be in the 5, and that needs to be in the other 2. Okay. We also know that we have, that needs to be in one of the 2s, that needs to be in the other 2. And we have a 1 and a 3. First full column. Alright, we also know that's the 8. There we go. Convenient enough. Okay, we know that's a 7. That's a 2, that's a 1. Or is it? That could be a 4. Well, we know this is a 6. This is an 8. So we know those are in that 8. And we know that's in that 11. Those are in that 9. And that's in the 2. Okay, we also know we have an 8 here. Greninja, you were actually helping. Keep it up. Alright. That's in that 8. We have a 2. We have a 5 somewhere in here. Well. That's in the 3. And we know we have a 9, which goes up to here. That's a 3. This needs to be a 4 and a 1. So that's a 5. That's a 2. And our 3 has to include that, because it can't include that. We have a 2 in here. That's a 4. So this needs to be in the 7. That needs to separate the 1 and the 6. That ends the 6. And we have, that ends the 8. That's the 4. And we have the 8 needs to include this. And there's a 1 somewhere in here. Well, we know that has to be in the 8 then, because the 1 needs to be at least over here. Because if we have a 1 right here, for instance, then this would be where the 8 would start. So, okay. We also know... Oh, great. I'm wasting my time again. I'm wasting too much time. Okay, but we also know Blue Force Master. Sounds cool. That can't be in the 6... Actually, that could be the 1. In fact, if it's a 1 here... Well... All we know then is that... You know, those can't be in the 5. 1 and 2. That's a 2. So there's another 1 between them, but we don't know where it is. Well, we know for a fact that this needs to be a 2. It's all about alternating between rows and columns, I guess. So we have this. So we're going to need this. No, we don't need that if we have... If we have 1 space, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we need that. That's a 2. That's the 5. So we have a 2 and a 1 in here. We don't know exactly how they get placed yet. We do know that that's in the 8. We also know this needs to be a 4. And we know we need a 1 here, which finishes our first full row. That's good. Okay. We also know that this needs to be a 6. Just like that's a 3. So we have this 2 right here. So that's a 2 and that's a 2. Okay. Now... I'm starting to regret not using Dragonite instead of Togekiss. Nothing personal against Togekiss or anything, but... just didn't do it. Just didn't quite do it for me. Alright, we have a 2 and a 3. And that finishes that column. Oops. I want that to be filled in. There we go. Alright, so then... that needs to be in the 2... That's not in the 9. Alright. Those are 1s. Alright, we need a 3 here. Oops. For now, I might as well use Gengar because, you know... what are you gonna do? Doesn't make a difference when we use it, as long as we use it. Okay, so we have... this needs to be a 1, because it can't be a 3, it wouldn't fit. So those are in the 3. Which means that's a 1. We also know that this is in the 3. That's the 9. Okay, we also know... what do we know here? I'm not exactly sure what we're supposed to know at that bottom row, other than this is part of the 4, but that doesn't really tell us very much. Other than that, which I guess does tell us that. Alright, so that means that we have this in the 8. Greninja's about to leave us soon, like a minute. Alright, 1 minute's time. That's not in the 3. So the 3 would have to include this. And not that. The 4 needs to include both of them. That's the 2. That's a 2. So that's empty. So that's our 1. So we have those 1s there, meaning that's not a 1, but that's a 3. And that's a 1. Okay. Starting to make some progress now, because that's a 1. So that's our 4, and the 3 isn't one of them. Can't tell which one, though. Alright, we do know... What do we know? Other than, that's in one of the 2s. The other 2 needs to include that, meaning these are not in the 2s. Guess that's convenient enough. Okay, so these need to be connected to be in the 8. Or to form the 8, should I say. So that's another full row. Okay, so in that case, that's a 1, so that's that one. Therefore, we have that done. We also know that can't be in the 7. We don't know if that's a 1 or a 2. Greninja, help us one final time. We're starting to run low on time. Actually, we still have time, but we're using a lot of these power-ups here. Alright, we know that the 4 needs to include both of these, because otherwise it would not work. That means we have 1, 1, 1. There we go. So that's done. Alright, now we have... This needs to be the 1 with the 5. Whoa, that's not right. That is definitely not right. That might be. So we have the 11 there to give us the 4. That column's done. That's a 2. This needs to be a 2. That's the 3. There's that 1. That's a 2 to finish up this row. That's a 2. That's a 4. That's a 1. This needs to start with a 2. That's not good. That is very much not good. That means something's wrong here. So if we had this... Hold on. This would need to be that, which means we wouldn't have that. Huh. Which would mean... something is off here. This would need to go this way then. Which would mean we need to get rid of something in here. This needs to be a 5. So something's wrong here then. If we had... That's not there then. Then we have the 1s. Something's still off. That can't be there then. And then we'd lose the thing at the bottom. So that would mean that this would be there. So that would go there. That seems to fix things. So now we need two 2s, so we have... That can't be the 2, so that would have to be the... 2s. Alright. So we have 1, 2, 4... And we need to get rid of one of these 1s. Well, we know the other ones have full columns, so this one's probably wrong then. Which means that the 2 would have to include that. So, since this is a 3, we know that that is not in there. Okay, so that's that. So we have that. We have that 8 right there, making that a 1. 1 at the bottom, because that's not there. So that means we need this one. Not that. That to be a 1. That to be a 2, and that to be a 2. There we go! Okay, so yeah, something clearly did go amiss in there, but luckily I do know how to actually look back and try to fix little problems in there. But with that, we actually are going to get the crown for that. So we're going to get a mural tile and 5 Picross. I'm sorry, I am not the best at this. What can I say? But with that, we did actually get the crown. So we captured and drew Groudon. Alright. So we're clearly the Blue Force Master. So we're going to get some Picross for that. That's nice, I guess. Alright. So the next area, I guess, is going to be Area 19 since... sorry, Area 20 since we're at 19. And... yeah, let's move on to Area 20. Road Beyond will require some Picross. Sure. Let's do this. Let's do this. In fact, you know what? Let's get some free Picross. Just because. Why not? Alright. Okay. Let's heal up our Pokemon since, you know, it just seems like the thing to do. They were kind of helpful, although I think Dragonite's probably the way to go this time. Alright, set at least one legendary or mythical Pokemon. 15 minutes or less, use only fixed skills. I don't think that's gonna happen. But I'll be happy to set something here, like let's go with Heatran. Why not? Let's do this. I am gonna use Dragonite. Of course, gonna go like in the corner, where it's not gonna be as helpful, but you know, it's still helpful. More helpful than Regirock. Give it that. Alright, so we have a 2 right there. Since we already aren't gonna be getting the crown, then at that rate, might as well just do this, using Greninja. So I think these are guaranteed in here. So, we have a 10 and a 1. Those are guaranteed. We have, this needs to be a 5. That needs to be a 2. That needs to be a 2. That needs to be a 1. those are not filled in. 1, 2, 1, and 1. In all likelihood, this is going to be... Actually, this is guaranteed to be a 1. We don't know which one, but it has to be a 1. Alright, we also know that is a 5. You also have, this is a 7. Those are definitely in there. They're in the 6. 3 and 2. So that has to be in there. So we have this column done. That's in the 5, 1 and 2. So that's done. That can't be in the 3. That can't be in that 3. Those are in the 4. That's not in the 3. Greninja, continue the help. It's definitely helpful. Alright, so if we know that isn't true, that is empty, that is not, we know that's a 1, meaning this needs to be in the 2. Those are in the 3. We also know that is in the 7. Those are in the 3. That's not in the 6. That's the 3, meaning this is in the 2. So now we're going to have to deal with columns. Okay. So we know this is a 3. That's a 3. Which finishes up the 7. Quite nicely. That can't be in the 6. That has to be in the... No, that doesn't have to be in the 6. We know that this can't be in the 6. Okay. We know this is a 2. That's a 1. Alright. Those aren't in the 5. Which means those have to be in the 5. That can't be in the 2. Those can't be in the 5, meaning those have to be in the 5. We have that 3. That's where we're on a Greninja time, unfortunately. Okay, so if we have, you know, that isn't in the 4, that's not in the 2, so this... That's unfortunate that we're going to have to use Greninja yet again. Once again, I could use something like Manaphy or whatever, which would give us infinite Blue Force time, but really no reason to do that right this second. Those are in the 4. That can't be in the 2. That has to be in the 2. This has to be in the 3. That's in that 3, finishing up this column. These are both 2s, meaning they have to go outward like that, which finishes up that row. So we're going to end up with those 2s, like that. That's a 3. Okay. So from there we know that is the 1 there. Finishing up that, you have that 5. Finishing up this row, that's a 1. This needs to be the 1 then. So that's the 4. Which means that we have that as a 2. That's good to know. Meaning that row is done. This needs to be a 1, so this can be a 3. So we're going to end up with this. So that'll be true there, which means we're going to end up with a 1 somewhere. Well, we know that's empty. That's empty. We have 2 and 3. So we're going to end up with that. This needs to be a 2, and we need a 1. So we're going to end up with a 2 here. Well, we know it has to go this way. So we're going to end up with that 1 there. So with that, there we go. We didn't use only time moves, but you know what? That's fine. We're not going to get the crown, but we are going to get the mural tile, and that's what really counts. So with that, we have drawn and captured the Expedition Society Chief, Picross. So we're going to get a Picross and a mural tile for that. Can't complain. I really can't complain. Alright, so it's a shame that those the abilities in the beginning haven't been working out too well for us, but that's okay. So I guess Mecha Ampharos must be up there. Alright, well, next up, set Pichu. Use freeze time. Do we have Pichu? We do not have Pichu, and that is for the mural tile. That kind of sucks. That really kind of sucks. I guess we're gonna have to do some backtracking at some point. So use freeze time at least once. There's really no reason to be honest. Let's just do this. We're not gonna get the crown or anything, but that's okay. Another big one too. That kind of sucks. Alright, come on. Go right in the middle, Dragonite. Right in the middle. Right in the middle. Or not. You know, it's your choice. Definitely your choice to not be helpful. Or as helpful, should I say. Whatever, I'll freeze time anyway. Okay, we know those 5 need to be in there. We also know it has to go up those as well. 2 above or below. We also know that has to be in the 4. Meaning we need those to be the 2s. Which finishes up that row. Pretty well, actually. Okay, so those can't be in the 4s, those can't be in the 6. Meaning that needs to be in the 6. So that's in the 2. Alright, we also know these are in 1s. Okay. And this can't be in the 5. Wait a minute. That could be the 1 though. What is this thing trying to tell me then? That this can't be in the 5? I guess that's probably it then. We also know that this needs to be that second 5 because this needs to be in the 4. And we have a 3, but it can't include that or that. So this is a 3. No, that isn't necessarily a 3. It could be 3 and a 1. We don't know that for sure. But that's a 1, that's a 1. That's a 1. Okay. Well, we know these need to be connected to go up to here. Those can't be in the 2. This has to be a 2. Meaning this is going to go up to there. Those can't be in the 3, neither can that. And we also know those need to be in the 6. Filling up that row. Okay, so that means we need this 2. Alright, that needs to be a 1. This needs to be a 1. So that's a 2 right there. Those need to be in the 5. There's a 2 in here. Those can't be in the 2. So this needs to be the 2. Can't be the 4. So the 4 needs to include, actually, all of those. There's our row. There we go. Alright. So that means this would be the 3. That would be a 1. That needs to be in the 6. That needs to be in the 5. That needs to be in the 4. Alright. We are making some progress, at least, if not very much. Those should be empty. Okay. That's in the 4. That is not. Same deal there. We also know that needs to be a 2. That needs to be a 2, and that needs to be a 1. That's a 2. Greninja, what are you doing? We still need you. We still need you. Alright, so this could be the 3 or the 1, though. I don't know if right here if that's a 3 or a 1. We know that's not a 3. That's definitely a 1. That's a 2. That's a 2, that's a 1. So we have that. That's a 2. No, wait a minute. That might be a 1, though. Well, we know that's definitely empty. So we get that 12 there. Well, that in the 12. That's a 1. So, you know what? If this is a 1, that would mean the 3 would have to be over there, meaning this needs to be the 3. Then it would mean we have 2 and 1. So that's our 1 there. There we go. This means that we have... this needs to be a 2. Ah. And that's a 3. Okay. This last row, column is done. We know this needs to be the 3 then, because you can't fit the 3 over there with the 7. We know this can't be in the 7, and that can't be in the 7. And we know that can't be in the 3. That's empty. So that's our 3 right there. We're going to have added a 2. That will be empty. So that's our other 1. That would have to be the 3 then. That's a 2. That's a 2. So that would be the 7. So that's not the 1, obviously. That means we end up with the... Alright, we have a 2 here. That has to be in the 2, so we have that 1 there. This needs to be a 2, so that's the 4. There we go. So with that, we have drawn and captured Raichu. We didn't bring Pichu, so we didn't get the mural tile, but we're going to just get a pick right for doing it in 15 minutes. And we used to freeze time. I didn't actually mean to get that pick right, but hey, you know what? That's fine. Extra pick rights I cannot complain about. Alright, so next up, let's do this. Alright, we want to set Minun. Do we even have Minun? I don't think so. We don't. Alright, well. That's unfortunate. What are you gonna do? Actually, you know what? I think I'd rather be Metagross than Ampharos. Another 15-minute one. Wow, okay, you know what? Whatever. Use skills 3 or fewer times. Well, I can't possibly bring mine in, so, you know, that's whatever. Whatever. Dragonite, you're up. Don't touch the 0 column, please. Stay to the middle or the right. Well, you didn't touch the 0 column, I'll give you that much. Credit where credit's due. Okay, might as well use Greninja at this point, because, you know, really nothing to lose by doing that. Okay, so we have the 2s. Well, that's a 1, so that's a 2. That's a 5. That's a 1. Those can't be in the 4, meaning those have to be in the 4. Okay. So we actually have our 1 and 2. Those are in the 4. That's a 4, that's a 2. Okay. That needs to be in the 3. And we have... those need to be in the 4. Okay. And we have... that needs... huh. In the 3, I think we need... you know what? That actually makes things easier for us. Thank you, Metagross. Oops. Well, okay, Metagross. That works. Out of curiosity. Okay, that makes things easier for us as well. You know that needs to be in the 3. That's there. Oops. Well, whatever, I guess that works. Okay. I feel like whenever I use Metagross, I really, like, abuse it. Because I use it way more than I probably should. Well, we already used more than 3 skills, so I'm already not getting a crown here. Although I already know I'm not, because I didn't bring mine in, so I guarantee this is Plusle. I guarantee this is Plusle. But, we know that's not in the 2. That is in the 4. That's not in the 2. And this needs to be a 7. So. We have all this. We know this is a 3. Finishing this row. Our first full row, if I may add. Okay, so we know that's a 2. So that's in the 3. So we have that. That's not filled in. Well, we know for a fact then this needs to be true. We also know that those need to be true. No, wait a minute, we don't know that. We have... this might not be. Meaning this might not be. Okay, so that means we have... well, this needs to be the 2. Which means that needs to be in the 4. So those need to be in that 4. That's a 1, those are 2s. That's a 4, that's a 4. That's a 2, and these bottom 2 rows are done. Actually, all 3 of the bottom ones are. We know that's not in the 4. And Greninja, it's time for you to make a return for us. Okay. So we know that this needs to be in the 4. We also know these need to be in the 4. That needs to be in the 2. Okay, so we also know those aren't in that 2. We have a 1 and a 3. You know what? That's actually good to know. Alright. So that's not in the 4. This is in the 4. Is that in the 4? No, that's not. So that is. So that's our 2. I meant to click the one underneath it, but okay. That's a 3. That's in the 2. So that's that 2. This row is done. That's a 3. Meaning that's a 3. That's a 2. And there's one more somewhere. Oops, I meant that. There we go. So with that, we have drawn and captured Plusle. So this, I guess, is a nice electric area. We're only going to get 1 pick right for that, but, you know, whatever. It's not like there's a mural tile involved. Unlike with Raichu. Raichu, that's kind of unfortunate. Okay, so let's move on. So use Clink. Do we even have Clink? We don't have Clink. Use Cross Reveal. Oops. So Cross Reveal, so I guess Talonflame is the way to go here. I am gonna still bring Metagross, only because I like having that little bit of extra enforcement in the middle of the stage. So we want to use Cross Reveal. We don't have Clink to use. We want to do it in 5 minutes. I guess Gengar can help us out with that. Let's go. We're not going to be using Dragonite because we have to use Cross Reveal. I would rather use Dragonite, to be honest. I should have actually used it on that 1-1-1 column. I didn't mean to actually. I was trying to show you what column I was talking about. But, you know, whatever. It's fine. Alright, is this in there? No, that's not. Okay, well. In that case, you know what? Greninja, let's do this. Okay, we know that's in the 6. And that's in the 6. Okay. That means we know 7. We don't know anything about that. But we do know that needs to be in the 2, which means that's a 2 right there, which means that's in the 7. And those are not. Which means that there. That needs to be in the 3. That's a 1. Is there a 1 here? There is a 1 there. Okay. That means we have 2 and 2. So we have that 3 there. That's a 1. We have that 4. That's a 2. And Gengar, help me out a little bit here. Okay, so that means we're going to end up with, we need a 1, 1, 2. This needs to be the 2. So you have the 1 and the 1. It means we have a 2 here. That can't be a 2. That needs to be in the 2. Alright, so we have, that can't be in the 2. So we need that to be the 2s. Okay, so we have this, row is done. So we're gonna end up with that. 2, 1 and 1. That's a 2 and a 1. 1 and 6 done. Alright, so we have that's a 1. That's a 2. 2 and 1. And 1. There we go. So, with that, we have drawn and captured Magnemite. That wasn't too bad. Not too bad. We're not going to get the crown because we don't have Clink, but that is okay. Alright, next up is another 20x15 one, really? Really, game? Really? Okay, you know what? I think I'm going to do this one instead. Bring Flareon. Do we have Flareon? I think we do, right? Yeah, we do. Okay. You guys can recover for right now. I've been using our Pokemon a lot lately. Alright, Flareon. You can replace Talonflame for right this second. Alright, use Scatter Reveal. Okay. Does anyone have one? You can you can use it anytime. Alright. And Flareon, 5 minutes. Let's do this. Okay, Dragonite, do your thing. If you can, do it in the middle, like the very middle. That works! That definitely works. Alright, I bet you Inkay's gonna end up doing nothing for us. No, actually, it's not too bad. Not really bad at all. Okay, so with that, now, Greninja, you can just let us, just finish it up. Even though I definitely don't need Greninja for this. But, you know, what are you gonna do? Okay, so we have that one there. Oops, I meant to click that one. Alright. So we have that 2, and a 1. 1 and 2. And the 1. There we go, 20 seconds. These Pokemon are too overpowered. But with that, we drew and captured Jolteon. That was actually too easy. I think I can honestly say that was too easy, but with that we got the Mural Tile and the 5 Picross. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough indeed. Said at least one electric, use Diamond Reveal. Alright, well. I guess this time we are going to bring an electric type and a fairy type. Fair enough. Fair enough. You know what, Plusle, you can do this. I don't know why I just picked Plusle, just the first one I saw. And Diamond Reveal. So, there we go. Let's do this. Dragonite, I need you to... Okay, we want to use Diamond Reveal, so let's do this. Well, this could be worse. So we have 4, that's a 1, that's a 1. Greninja, help us out here. Alright, so... we know 1, 1, 2. That's a 1, that's a 1, that's a 2. Alright, we have that 2 there. That's a 1. 1 and 2. Meaning we have 4. And we have 3. Those are in the 1, that's in the 1. Meaning this would be the 1 there. That's empty, that's a 1. That is that row. Okay, so we have 2 and 2, 2 and 3, 2, space 1, space 1, 2, 3. That is a guaranteed row. By guaranteed row, I mean it's pretty much guaranteed that you know what it's going to entail. Alright, so we have that's a 4. Is that the 3? That's not the 3. That's the 3, meaning that's a 1. Fair enough. So that means we're going to have that 2 right there. So we're going to have this. We have that. So that's our 1. Wait a minute. Why did I do that? I meant to click that. Because that should be a 1 over there. We have those 2's right there. Meaning we have, that's the, well, that's that. We have a 1 and 1 because that is not anything because that's a 2. 1 and 1. There we go. So with that, we have drawn and captured Joltik. Alright. That's cute. That's all cute and all. Alright, so with that, next up, we have, wait a minute, this is a big 15 by 15 one. Big-ish. Use Plusle and Cross Reveal. I must use Cross Reveal. If I must, but you know, who has Cross Reveal? Can use it anytime? You can use it anytime. So you know what? I'm bringing you. Let's do this. Okay, so I'm gonna use Dragonite for this. Dragonite, go in the middle. Just do this in the middle. Do your business in the middle. Okay, don't. Whatever. What are you gonna do? Alright, Infernape, do some work for me, please. Could you, like, do it, like... that works. That works, okay. So we have 3 and 4. I meant to fill them in, because we have that's a 2, meaning we have that 2 there. That has to be only a 2. That needs to be a 2. That needs to be a 3. So we have the top pretty much done. Okay, that is a filled up column. Alright. We have that 3 there. That's a 4. That's a 5. That's a 3. Okay, so... Greninja, it's time for you to help us out a little bit now. Alright, we know that the 5 needs to include that. Can't include that. We know the 6 needs to connect them, which means we're going to end up with that 3. We have a 1 and a 3, meaning this needs to be 3, and that's a 1. We have a 1, we have a 1, that's our 2. Okay, so that means we have, that is a 1. That is a 1. The 3 simply must include them. That's in the 2. And, oops, I meant to click that and that. No, that. Okay, okay, fair enough, fair enough. So we're gonna end up with that's a 4. That's a 1. 5's gonna go there. Okay. Is this part of the 3? That is not, which means that this is a 3. And that's in the 2. That's in that 2, so we have this. Now that's a 2 right there, so we're going to end up with that. Filling up that entire row. That's a 5. That's a 3 and a 2. 2 and a 1. Okay, that's done. So we're going to end up with that one, and that one, and that one. There we go. So with that, we have drawn and captured Minun. Alright. That we should get the crown for, I think. There we go. So we're getting a mural tile and 5 Picross. Alright, was the puzzle one requiring Minun for a mural tile or a Picross? It was for a Picross, so I don't even care about the mural tile there. So at least 2 Pokemon. Okay. Well. This is one of those few, I think, occasions where we actually end up using all 5 Pokemon. That is actually hilarious. Okay. Well, so at least 2 Pokemon, do it in a minute. Alright, you know what? You know what, I think Gengar is more suited for this than Minun is. I guess we're using Ape. Let's do it. Let's do it! Alright, Dragonite, need you to come through for me. Dragonite, you do it right in the middle and we'll be golden. Don't do it in the middle and we'll be SOL. You know, what are you gonna do? Okay. Might as well freeze that time up. And I might as well use Greninja because, you know, we're already on the clock and all. Okay, so we have that one right there, so we're gonna end up with 3 and that and the 2. So we end up with 2 and 5. Those are empty, so this needs to be a 4 and a 1, 7 and a 1. These need to be connected, so we end up with a 5. And that's a 2. Okay, so we have a 3 and a 1. So that's a 2 and 4. 1, 2, 1. So we have a 3. That's a 2. And we end up with a 2 and a 3. There we go! So without even touching the clock, 0 seconds, with that we drew Clink. Oh, okay, that's where Clink is. Definitely in a minute we're going to get the crown for that. A mural tile and 5 Picross. That was too easy, I think. Alright, so that's where Clink was, to use it here against Magnemite. That's just wrong, to put Clink after Magnemite and request Clink for it. That's just wrong. Well, so it looks like there's more. Set unknown. That's just wrong. I don't know. I don't think we have unknown. Either way, I guess we'll be doing that next time. So, thank you for watching. As always, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time when we continue drawing even more Pokemon. See you guys then. Goodbye.